Hello, my name is Andrew Geary, and welcome to Seismic Sound Off, in-depth conversations in applied geophysics. In this episode, I speak with Ariel Lellouch and Tieyuan Zhu on distributed acoustic sensing, or DAS, the featured special section in November's The Leading Edge. Ariel and Tieyuan highlight new developments in algorithms impacting microseismic, new findings for hydraulic fracturing, and discuss their disagreement for the current rate the geophysics industry is adopting and utilizing DAS. This is an exciting conversation on technology that has a wide range of applications for geophysics. For Ariel and Tieyuan's full biographies and links to this month's papers, visit seg.org/podcast. And now for our conversation. So let's get going. What do you all think makes this special section on distributed acoustic sensing stand out from the previous ones?
Well, I would say that first, DAS, or distributed acoustic sensing, is booming, and it's becoming a quite hot topic for special sections. And I would say in the past, DAS VSP used to be the hallmark of such special sections. And the engineering challenge is still there for deep sea environments, and one of the papers in this section is trying to address that. But DAS VSP is slowly yet surely becoming more commonplace. I think what's nice about this section is that all the other papers in this section deal with new applications and new ways of using DAS to our benefit. So really kind of like expanding the boundaries of what you can do with this technology.
Tieyuan, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, so in past, I would say past decades, DAS is really, developed very quickly in geophysics. Especially, I think this is right time, we put all new advances together in the leading edge, to emphasize the new development in for example, subsea fiber, how we overcome the, barrier using DAS for the subsea compared to the land applications, and also the hydraulic fracking, how we smartly using the DAS. And I think also we have some engineering, near surface applications as well. So I think this session gonna like snapshots of recent advance in DAS.
Well, excellent. And let's look at some of these papers specifically. What developments does Huff et al.'s new algorithm portend for microseismic events?
Ariel, do you want to go? Because that's your paper.
Yeah. I mean, in this case, Tieyuan was the editor and I was a co-author, so I guess I can go. I would say, in general, guided waves that Owen and others have been using, including yours truly, are very useful. And that is because these guided waves are confined to the reservoir. They can propagate to very long distances. And we can use them, and that's what Huff's papers did, we can use them to tell if their source is in the reservoir or very close to it or not. And this way, we basically have a way of saying if the microseismic events or the fractures opening are actually opening in the reservoir or outside. And that's very important because if they open in the reservoir, they influence production. And if they open outside, then they don't. And given the very large depth uncertainty we have for conventional, let's say, surface-based microseismic, this gives a lot of extra information. Basically, again, allowing us to separate the production influencing microseismic events from the rest. So I think this is a very, very valuable type of analysis.
I'm always really impressed when you pull in a double duty of editor and author. So that kudos to you for this month. How might hydraulic fracturing change if Borodin and Siegel's findings could be utilized at a well site?
So the need of Borodin and Siegel's paper is using something we call the garbage or noise. We used it to, just throw away in the data processing during processing the borehole acoustic data. So the author here proposed using the pump noise. It's kind of a very low frequency acoustic signal to characterize the hydraulic fracking. I like the author, treat the pump noise like kind of musical chord. He analyzed this kind of special distribution of core tongues is sensitive to the well geometry and also the hydraulic connectivity properties. So they demonstrated using the DARS with very high resolution in the spatial and temporally to record this pump noise. And he also showed the examples to connect how this pump noise can show, the different hydraulic fracture, aperture, and width. So he kind of presented several examples. Even if they are all synthetic examples, but I saw the value of this approach they presented to show some promising of using DARS to record this noise to help us to understand the hydraulic fractures.
I was coming across a lot of new phrases for me and Ellmenthaler's et al. What issues were they using DOS to help address?
Their paper is very interesting. They address a very significant topic in exploration geophysics. So they want to achieve real-time seismic imaging for reservoir monitoring in subsea, in marine setting. They also, at the beginning, they claim compared to the OBN, the DARS VSP is more economic. I like also talk about the economic value of using DARS VSP in the marine setting. They really address one big issue in using the DARS in marine setting is when you consider install the fiber in the subsea, so you need to deal with a long fiber cross from the shaft from the in the air and then cross to the deep water, right? So the question is, how do you connect your fiber with the top with the bottom in the water? So usually you need a connector, but the principle of DARS is we need to receive as much as we can of the backscatter light from the whole fiber. So because you have a connector between the top and the bottom, so you're gonna lose the energy due to this practical connector, or called an optical connector. So the author proposed a new DARS, system to avoid this barrier. I'm not a hardware person, but I can speak. They kind of propose a amplifier in the fiber, and then to amplify the backscatter energy from the very deep well. So in that case, they can increase the energy from the deep well to get a much better DARS signal from the deep sea.
What are a few of the distinct advantages that surface seismic with DOS has over point sensor acquisitions?
This paper is from the Banklin Aramco. They address the complex near-surface geology using the seismic geophones in conventionally, for example. So they also claim if you can do geophone, you can deploy geophone with 1 meter spacing. You can also potentially address all this near-surface problem. But the problem is it is not economic at this stage yet. So the DARS actually provide a promising solution compared to the point geophone sensors, because DARS is continuous. You can control from the box, and then you can put a continuous cable across the whole area. So this paper gave a very high-level review of DARS acquisition for this desert near-surface area. I think the author tried to present in several aspects of this DARS in this particular near-surface setting. For example, they talk about this sub-meter sampling from the DARS for the near surface, and also the DARS can provide a very dense data to suppress the noise from the near-surface seismic acquisition, and also the DARS can allow simultaneous acquisition near surface seismic and vertical arrays. This can effectively addressing the exploration target. They also show the data, and also they try to combine the DARS data with the latest seismic technology, for example, the full waveform inversion. So they also show DARS can benefit the full waveform inversion, to get a much better near-surface imaging.
Kit Chambers utilized a data set to aid in traffic monitoring purposes that was originally created for monitoring changes in a geothermal reservoir. What uses of DAS could you see utilized in a similar manner, maybe from an existing data set?
Yeah, so I will say that this paper is very exciting because the data set he used is open access. And we're slowly seeing more and more data sets becoming available, and I'm quite confident we'll see more and more dual or even triple uses for these DAS deployments. So for example, the most obvious example you can think about is you have a downhole DAS array, which is deployed for imaging or for microseismic monitoring. You can use it to study earthquakes and enrich regional seismic networks. If you think about, let's say, near surface fibers deployed in urban environments, you can use them to monitor traffic, but then you can also use them to detect changes in the subsurface because you have continuous recording of a fiber. You have a very dense spatial and temporal measurement. So through time-lapse analysis, you can see changes in the subsurface. For example, subsidence developing or sinkholes. So really, I think once you have this DAS array, you can use it for a lot of things, and making the data open, I think, is key to more successful applications and papers like this.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that was an open data set, and it's great that we're seeing more of that. And how would both of you, feel free to answer if you'd like, how would you recommend a geophysicist utilizing this special section to improve their own work?
So I would say what I think is exciting about DAS is the more you dive into the data, the more new, interesting phenomena and open questions you encounter. I think the papers in this section, special section, kind of exemplify it because they're not really conventional DAS applications. So first suggestion would be just look into the data. And it sounds trivial, and it's not so easy because the volumes are huge and it can be quite tedious. But I would say that, from my experience, that's where new ideas are coming from. Just look at the data, you see some weird things, and then you start thinking about it. And then you come up with all these great ideas about using tube waves and using guided waves and so forth. The other suggestion, which is maybe a little bit more technical, is to keep in mind, and again, it sounds trivial, but that you have a very dense array. And in point sensor analysis, which is very common for monitoring, we often treat each receiver almost individually, just because the arrays are very sparse. And I think with DAS, we need to, from the very early stages of data processing, we need to think about it in terms of array processing. And if you use the entire array altogether, you can overcome the optical noise, and you can overcome the fact that you have a relatively directive measurement. But the number of channels and their coherency can actually help you. So I would say think in terms of arrays and, if you wish, antennas.
I would have two suggestions for readers if you want to look into this section. So one, this section can serve as library. The studies are talking about from the subsea to the traffic noise to the hydraulic fracking. You can definitely treat this as, a library. You want to check, some particular studies from this section. And the second point is lots of, for example, one paper from Bankulin study to showing how the gorge length be important for the noise suppress. I think this kind of study also can serve as like a lessons, people already done in different data in different area. So I want a reader can pay attention to these small things in the paper. They can understand how other people done, appropriately using, for example, gorge length, and also the trade-off between the length and the sampling rate in one of subsea fibers paper.
How do you both see these particular papers in this special section speaking to the economic situation that the oil and gas industry finds itself in right now?
I would say we all follow the difficult situation of unconventionals, and many papers here I think can significantly improve our understanding. You have the guided waves, you have the pumping noise, you have multilateral with low frequency DAS. So I think these hopefully can make a difference in better understanding the fracture networks that develop in unconventionals. And by this, making, decision impacting observations and measurements. Every margin, every advantage we can get in the unconventional world is going to be critical. So for me, that's the main take off from this special section.
Yeah, that's exactly true. So the DARS can provide a unpredictable the data set for the oil industry. We can rethink what's the value of seismic data. Before we have geophone data, it's more sparse, lots of things we cannot do. But now the DARS actually provide a very kind of richful information about the reservoir. For example, if you look at the subsea paper, the goal of DARS VST in the subsea, for this case, is for the time-lapse reservoir monitor. If you think long term, the monitor work, if you want, for the long term, so the DARS data actually can provide a more permanent monitor acquisition system. So that is much cheaper compared to the current OBN, OBC, or other monitor technology. So I think this is going to be a long-term investment if we push the DARS, as a acquisition system compared to conventional sensors.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rank the discipline of geophysics in adopting and utilizing distributed acoustic sensing?
If I rank, I would give 3, 4. We just start to understand how the DARS can be used for geophysics study. We're still not over there yet very confident to know, the DARS, have a true value for near surface geophysics or to the deep structure imagings.
I was I was an 8 or 9 actually.
Whoa.
Well, if you think about it, yeah, the first, let's say, practical example of DAS VSP was less than a decade ago, and it's now one of the hottest topics at the annual meeting, and it's getting special section everywhere. And I think let's talk about the industry side. I think that the imaging community understands the value of having dense sampling at depth, and there's basically no debate regarding the value of DAS VSP. And low frequency DAS has also made big steps in towards becoming a commonplace tool for reservoir engineers. There are other, let's say, applications in which it's not as straightforward. You can think about microseismic monitoring and even surface deployments, in which case the DAS directivity makes it a little bit trickier to use. We're getting there, but I think the industry is, it's using DAS for its strengths, and we're still working on the aspects that can be improved. So I would give it an 8 or 9, but that ranking was kind of bumped up by the fact that you were asking about the discipline of geophysics, which is also academia. And in academia, I think people are doing highly creative things with DAS. Tieyuan can tell you about how he recorded thunderstorms on a fiber. And fiber arrays are popping like mushrooms after the rain. In cities, in fault areas, in mountains, in glaciers, in the ocean. To answer all sorts of scientific questions. So I think I would say, as a discipline, I'm more lenient than Tieyuan, I guess.
Well, I think we can say there's a bright future, regardless.
Exactly. This is my point. So I think so far, in past 5 years, I think there is a boom. In geophysics, people start to thinking using the DARS instead of conventional geophone for their particular observation. But I would say in next 10 years, the DARS gonna be more popular, more can use like daily life observation in the fields, from the glacier, ocean, to the near surface urban area.
Well, that's a great segue into this last question here. Please finish this sentence for both of you. If DAS reaches its full potential for geophysics, it will...
I will say be deployed downhole as often as logging tools.
I would say it will, serve geophysics much better with a much big data set, with a much richful information about our Earth or about our subsurface. So we have more opportunities, for new generation geophysics to explore, to explore not just the data and also develop the new theory to address the issue we encounter in the new data set.
Well, it's an exciting special section. I appreciate you both for working on it, as well as Ariel contributing to it. And thank you for your time today to talk a little bit about what is going on right now with DOS.
No, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to SEG's flagship podcast, Seismic Sound Off. SEG produces these episodes to benefit its members, the geophysics community, and inform the public on the value of the science. To show your support for the show, please share this episode with a friend, colleague, or manager that would enjoy hearing this show. Your recommendation is the single best action you can take on behalf of SEG's podcast. Go to the website at seg.org/podcast to find all the episodes and learn how you can subscribe for free directly on your phone. Original music by Zach Bridges. This episode was hosted, edited, and produced by Andrew Geary at 51 Features. The SEG podcast team is Ted Bakamjian, Jennifer Crockett, Allie McGinnis, and Mick Sweeney. Thank you for listening. This is Seismic Sound Off, signaling off.